Hi, everyone. I'm Teresa Lisum coming to you with my amazing guest co host, Cathy Weaver. Welcome, Cathy. And we're evolving women. I'm evolving, you're evolving, we're all evolving, and we're all in this journey together. So we're here to help each other on that journey. And during this episode, we're going to be sharing uplifting messages, offer new perspectives, maybe give you some tools, maybe some new resources to check out, some wellness ideas, maybe even some mindset shifts so that we all evolve faster. We're also here to give you permission to be your best self. So, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Have you ever reinvented yourself during the course of your life? I know I myself had, and many, many times I've reinvented myself, created a new identity. I went from an educator to a solopreneur. And my amazing guest co host, Cathy Weaver, thank you so much for being here. It sounds like you have done that as well. You've shifted your identity, recreated yourself in the course of your lifetime. So, why don't we go ahead and start there today?
Fantastic. And thank you so much, Teresa, for having me. I absolutely love being able to empower women, and you do such a great job of that. So thank you for having me. I was an entrepreneur by nature, I believe, because I always was involved in making money, whether it was lemonade stands in the neighborhood
Mm.
or raking leaves or babysitting so I could buy my first car. All of those have been entrepreneurial positions, in my opinion. And after the college gig, I decided, let's see if I can get into the health and wellness journey. Kids came along soon thereafter, and I personally choose a holistic healing rather than traditional Western pharmaceutical type healing. And so I started selling vitamins. Well, I don't know if you've ever done that before, but 1 month I made $230 and I dollars. $230. And I thought I died and went to heaven because that was the
Yes.
biggest month I'd ever had.
Yeah.
And I literally look back on that and go, oh my gosh. And so that was not a good fit for me. I was used to much bigger money than that. So I thought, you know what? If this is how this is going to work, it's not a good fit for me. So I entered the corporate arena because I love finance. I am all over the money thing. I love investing and watching money grow and
Mhm.
watching the stock market and all those things. And so finance was a great fit for me. So I was in finance for probably 16 years and absolutely loved it. And then I went into corporate training and I got to go across the country training in different capacities, I guess you would say, for other folks that were accomplishing their success journey one step at a time. And then during the course of that corporate training role, I was introduced to Enagic, the Kangen Water Company. And I'd never heard of it before. Water's all the same. Why should there be a company
Yeah.
about water?
Hmm.
I am a researcher. I'm a skeptic by nature, apparently. And so I dove into every possible place you could research. I drove my sponsor crazy because my next thing was always, I have another question. And I'm sure he's going, are you seriously kidding? And so I have another question. What does the water taste like? How does the water work? Why is the water different? Blah, 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 blah. And that was 17 years ago, but I did drive him crazy. And the rest, as they say, is history because my success journey has obviously caused his success journey to blossom as well. So it's been a wonderful ride in that arena. Now, in those little steps, and just like you mentioned that you're an entrepreneur by nature and by trade, all of a sudden, God laid on my heart, you need to write a book about networking. And
Mm.
I thought, because I was networking all over the place, people were seeing me absolutely everywhere. Chambers of commerce were huge pieces of my success journey. And so then everybody would go, I see you everywhere. How do you do? Where do you do? Where do you go? And they were doing all this. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so then literally God placed on my heart, you've got to write a book about networking. And I thought, I sell water machines. I'm not an author. How does that work? And the
Mhm.
next thing you know, literally in 2 days' time, I tell everybody 48 hours, they can't believe it. In 2 days' time, my first book was born. And
Wow.
I couldn't literally, he sat me down. I literally typed until my fingers were stiff. And I sent my manuscript. I didn't even know what to call it. I said, honey, I think I have a bunch of pages to send you. And the girl that does my graphic design, she's fantastic. And I said, I think I wrote a book. And so I sent it to her, and she writes back a few hours later and she goes, you did. And I know, and she's so patient and oh my gosh, just a genius, of course. And so she dolled it up, graphic design, and the next thing you know, my book was born, Networking on Steroids in 2012. And so that literally hit the ground like I just can't even imagine. And I was it's Teresa, it's one of those things you don't know what people don't know, because for
Mm-hmm.
many of us, what we do day is automatic. Other
Yep.
people go,
Yep.
how do you, where do you, just like with your
Mm-hmm.
podcast, people see your dynamic podcast and they're like, how did you learn how to do all that? And you just push buttons and here we are. And I thought, isn't that an interesting thing that people see networking on steroids as their go-to for reference on networking? And that really
Mm.
is the beginning.
Wow. That I love that you followed your inspiration. I love that because so many of us dismiss that inspiration that we get. We might put it aside, like, oh, that's kind of silly. That
Yeah.
can't be done. Like we doubt ourselves. We doubt that inspiration. So we might not act on it. And then we shuffle it aside. So I love when I hear stories of people trusting and acting on that inspiration.
And that's definitely what happened. And because of the networking, my water business was booming. And like I say, I give credit to God, of course, but my chambers of commerce, that is my beginning. Meetup.com was another one, but
Mm.
chambers of commerce all over my local market here in Kansas City. Oh my gosh. And then that allowed me to meet one of my coaches. So I went to a coaching class and she held it in person. And this was a group coaching class. And there were three ladies, the coach and myself. And so she starts in and she goes, tell us your story. And I said, no, I don't do that. I don't talk about my personal life. And I started in on my company. No, 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 no. This is not about company. This is about your personal life. I said, I don't do that. So she goes to I know, and she goes to the next girl and she unloaded, and the next girl and she unloaded. And by the time she got back to me, she said, okay, tell us your story. And I said, I really don't do that. And she goes, this is a coaching class. You don't have a choice. And so I let her rip, and grief journey and people had died in my life and things like that. And so everybody's just like paused with their mouths hanging open because again, I don't do that. And she looks at me straight on her, just straight on. And she goes, you need to write a book about that.
Wow.
And the first thing I said was, who would read it? And then she said, that's not your problem.
Ooh, wow.
And I went, and the other girls are just like paused. They were frozen. And so I went, oh my gosh, this was April of 2017. And I handed her the first copy in July 1st of 2017. And I said, here you go.
Wow.
You were the inspiration that caused me to write my first bereavement book. And she was just like, oh my gosh. Well, I already had it. My heart, my cover, even my title was back in 2000, pardon me, in 1995 was my title. All of these things had happened, but I never even thought of a book. And the next thing you know, here we are.
Wow. And everything just came together. And I
Yes.
love that people seem to have been placed strategically in your life at the right place and the right time. And you could not have planned that,
No, there's no
you
way I
know?
could.
You
No.
know, so that was divine orchestration
Yes, a
playing
million
out there.
percent. Yes.
Again, I love that. And the fact that you didn't want to be vulnerable. That was not your thing. And I know a lot of people struggle with that vulnerability piece. I know I struggle with that myself. I'm a lot better than I used to be. But yeah, I didn't want other people to see, not that my life is terrible, but I didn't want other people to see, my emotional side and things that weren't working out. And so yeah, it's still to this day a process, and I have to remind myself, now that's okay. You can tell people what's happening. But yeah, that does seem to really ring and resonate with other people, doesn't it?
Absolutely, 1,000,000%.
Hmm.
And I find it so amazing. And the holiday time is always a big time for emotion and memories and
Hmm.
things like that. So my book, again, written in 2017, I made it, the first one was on Amazon. I've since taken that off of there because all my books are free now. But the second one, I did not want to be on Amazon because obviously Amazon does not give you a list of who purchased. And I wanted to have a personal relationship
Mm.
slash feedback conversation with the folks who had bought the grief journey book. And so that's why I didn't put it on Amazon, but I put it all over my website and social media. So if you'd like a copy, here you go, kind of thing. And so again, now it's free. And then, of course, Teresa, I don't know if you remember a little thing called the pandemic, but in
What?
2020, I
Hmm.
know, seriously, let's think about that. So in 2020, everything shifted. I'm out in Chambers of Commerce. I'm in ABWA, Polka
Hmm.
Dot
Hmm.
Powerhouse,
Hmm.
meetup.com, all over Kansas City. I get to go to Eventbrite, this and something else that, and I'm just networking my little heart out. And I'm grateful because, again, my water business, oh my gosh, I'm grateful for that. And then all of a sudden, the pandemic happens. All my chambers are like, uh-oh, my ABWA, my every single thing I'm in is not happening.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I thought, what is this going to do to my
Hmm.
company?
Yeah.
And so I literally thought, this is a punt and pivot shifting thing.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so my third book was born, Networking on Steroids, PQ, which stands for post quarantine, how to
Oh.
navigate these Brady Bunch squares so that you
Hmm.
can be an effective networker even online. And so that book also is free. And so the Networking on Steroids PQ has turned out to be a very large source of speaking gigs for me because I get to
Oh.
train people's online teams, their online groups. And again, the book is free. This is not a sales pitch, but literally they go, you can't build a relationship on a screen.
Oh, that.
And I always say, oh my gosh, that's so interesting. Tell me about that. So by the time they tell me why you can't, we just did.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's always funny to me when people have this, you can't do that.
I
And
know.
I'm always like, well, here we are. So
Uh,
that to me was very interesting, but that was the pandemic book.
yeah, yeah, the pandemic book, the pandemic pivot, we could call it, I guess. But it was interesting. I mean, I didn't do as much networking as you, obviously, prior to that, but I had just kind of started, and I was actually in Polka Dot Powerhouse as
Yes,
well for a time
yes,
period there. So that was the way you did things, you know? And then, like you said, when that all fell apart, I loved watching, this is during that time. I loved
yeah,
watching how people were pivoting. They were becoming creative. They were helping other people online. I thought it was a beautiful shift that a lot of people were able to make. And then there were people that could not because they were in that limited mindset in that box. Like, this is the way it could be. I don't know anything beyond that. But those people that were able to think beyond that were the ones that, really did a beautiful pivot. It was just so interesting to watch play out. And I really didn't know all that much. I was not into the online networking much then. Um, but then I came into that, and you're right, you are everywhere, and you were everywhere. And I'm like, who is this woman? And why do I see her everywhere? Like, is she cloning herself? Like, and I didn't understand it. I will admit, like, I didn't get it. Like, why do you want to be in all these groups? I mean, I have learned better now and I understand it. But you're totally right, man. I have so many new friends that I've never met in person, and we live across the country from each other. I just had a conversation with somebody yesterday. I love her. We have the best conversations. We support each other. We give each other insights. And yeah, have we ever met in person? No. So, yeah, a screen is really not a barrier between people at all.
no, I agree 1,000,000%. And I think it is so amazing when people actually get to talk themselves out of their mindset shift
Hmm.
and they go, oh, maybe you can. And so, yes, I
Mm-hmm.
definitely love that piece. And so with all of my online networking, when the pandemic hit, I started finding new places to go for networking. And one of them was called a posting party. And I was like, what the heck is a posting party? And so I saw that on a LinkedIn post because now I'm on all platforms because I'm like, I got to figure this online stuff out because
Mm-hmm.
my chambers are still not up to where they were. And so all of a sudden there's this posting party and it's free. And I'm always like, yeah, right. And so I go to the posting party, my very first one. There were 84 people on the call. I knew five-ish maybe out of the whole group, which rocks my world because I love meeting new friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so the gentleman was explaining how to this, how to that, what to do, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought, all right. And so I put up my test balloon, which was a picture of a dead plant. And I did little things like plants need hydration too, and a few hashtags and a redirect to my website and things like that. And I thought, all right. And I did what he said, put it in the chat. And I'm looking at these 84 people like going, why do they care about my dead plant? But I was getting a little teensy bit of engagement on LinkedIn, like, oh, honey, that's precious, or so
Mm-hmm.
happy for water business, or whatever they were talking about.
Yeah.
Nothing turned out to be corporate type environment. And so all of a sudden, literally in 48 hours, I got 894 views and 60
Wow.
comments. And so I was hooked from that very first post. And I thought, I got to figure this posting party stuff out. And that was 4 years ago and almost five. And the rest is history, as they say, from all the posting parties I get to do now. So as you know, since we get to see you often, we have a posting party every Monday morning at 10 o'clock Central.
Mm-hmm.
We have a posting party on the third Friday night of each month, and that's at 6 o'clock Central. And now I get to do a posting party for another group that found me, and that will be in January. So I get to host a posting party and facilitate one for their group, and I'm super excited. And then there's a group called Alignable that I had been on but didn't do much with. And now I get to do two posting parties a month for them. So I'm just like, I am loving the posting party format. And so during the course of all of that, if you can imagine, people were finding me with the grief and bereavement topic from my first grief book. And I had a lot of questions like, where do you, how do you, what do you, now what kind of thing. And I thought, isn't it interesting? Because again, you do your podcast, push a button. You do your essential oil business, push a button. You do your empowering women, you help people, you're on it the whole time. And so it's almost second nature to us when we have a gift or a strength like that. So all
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden, people were asking about this next journey grief thing. And so my fourth book was born in 2023, and that is called My Final Footprints. And
Mm-hmm.
so literally, do you want your funeral live streamed on Facebook? Do you want your social media up or down when you're gone? Where's your mailbox? Where's your mailbox key? If you don't know the answers to those questions, neither do the people that you're leaving behind in death fog.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now they've got to make those decisions for you on your behalf, and you guys never even talked about it. So
Mm-hmm.
myfinalfootprints.com has both of my grief journey books. And again, they're all free. And it's just an interesting thing. My analytics on grief goes up so high during holidays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, Hanukkah, things like that. And it's
Mm.
just so interesting to watch the trends because people are retrieving memories and
Yeah.
dealing with emotion, and tis
Yeah.
the season, as they say.
Yeah. And the holidays definitely amplify that and bring that to the surface.
Absolutely, they do.
Yeah, that's fabulous that you now have all these books that are there to help people. And I love that you're offering them for free. That is fabulous. And the posting party, yes, I will attest that the posting parties are fun. I am a regular on one of Cathy's, and we have like created like a really awesome group of friends who have never met each other on outside of, these little rectangles. And I now have a conflict on Monday, so I'm like jumping between the two different things that I have going. So I kind of miss when I can't come to the posting party, but it's a learning experience. It's a way to amp up your platform, LinkedIn in this particular case, and really get more better exposure and just to connect with people and network with people. So it's networking, not that's not his main focus, but that turns out what is, a big part of it.
It really does. And the networking piece is always fun because now we have several friends from the UK, several friends
Mm-hmm.
from Canada, several friends from Australia. You absolutely never know who you're going to meet. And that's one of the reasons I love the virtual platform for networking, because I never had a friend in Australia before.
Yeah, yeah.
My first three books, including the fourth one that is a PDF printable book, is now in Australia. Misty Hinkle, one of
Oh,
our
yeah.
friends and authors, actually said, I want your books in my hand. So
Oh,
I
that's
sent them to
cool.
her, holy moly, and she holds them up all the time when she's talking about books. And she just wrote her third one, and that's on Etsy now. And Teresa, I'm just telling you, it's so amazing to see how the connections can happen from miles,
Oh,
hemispheres
yeah,
apart.
yeah. I mean, I love people badmouth technology sometimes and they're dismissive of it, but it is such a powerful tool. Like I said, I have friends in Australia now, in the UK, and other places. How would that have been possible, a couple of years ago?
Exactly.
I heard somebody on a podcast reference our phones, what power we have in our hand that we don't even really think too much about. Like I think he said, like there's more power here than was available to the crew and the staff that put the moonwalk in place. Like, they were working with those big clunky computers and devices, and these are more powerful. And this connects us to people across the world with instantaneously. It's just an amazing thing, and I really going to try to be more grateful for this and show more appreciation for it that we get to carry around in our pockets. Like who would have thought?
In the olden days, we had to take our laptops with us if we were going to be out of our office for an extended period, like a day or two kind of thing.
Hmm.
And you'd go to a coffee shop and you'd see all these folks with their laptops. You can still do that while you're waiting for someone, obviously, to get some work accomplished. But now, guess what? Your email follows you on your phone, depending upon how
Yep.
you've got it set up. So I can still answer email from my phone while I'm waiting for that in-person
Yes.
coffee chat person. And it's unbelievable to me the power, as you say, that's right in that little appliance.
Hmm. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So I'm going to encourage our viewers to just have some gratitude for this thing. It's so commonplace now, which tends to happen. Things become so common and we just use them all the time. We don't think much about them. Like the water, your water piece. I am so grateful of having clean water. When I'm taking a shower, I am so grateful for that water that comes in conveniently to my house. I don't have to walk a mile to go get clean, fresh water. I just turn the dial. So just those little things I try to really be grateful for and have an awareness around every single day.
Absolutely. And that's a beautiful message completely. The empowering women, and that's one of the reasons I was so honored to be on your podcast. The empowering women piece is huge for me because when a lady says, because of you, I didn't give up.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I follow you on YouTube. I follow you on LinkedIn. I follow wherever it is. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you never know. People are watching and they
Yeah.
want to see what you're doing and what it can do for them.
Right.
So applause to you, my friend, for the Empowering Women
Mm.
podcast.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we don't know how people are going to receive what we're putting out there.
Absolutely.
So, you've given that message that follow your inspiration. You don't know where it's going to lead. It might sound crazy, but I love when I hear how things come together perfectly because of that inspiration. That has just always been so exciting for me to hear somebody's story play out. And now you're touching all of these lives that if you had doubted yourself and talked yourself out of it, you wouldn't be affecting people and impacting people as you are now.
Absolutely. And it's not easy to say yes,
Yeah.
but you absolutely realize who needs this. And so, especially now with the books being free, that's not my job to find out who needs it. They find me.
Hmm. Hmm. I love that. And we will definitely put some links to your website, to your your platforms. Like I said, she's everywhere, so you'll be able to find her. But I definitely want to get those books into people's hands who need them. And thank you so much for offering them free to the world. I think that's a beautiful gift that you're offering. But we do need to wrap this up. So I'm going to throw the ball back to you here in a minute. But I want to point out that, like, you were able to think differently. So women that are watching this, don't be afraid to think differently. Don't be afraid to follow your inspiration and then hold on and see what's going to happen. 100% of the time, it seems like it's always better than what you think will happen. And I'm
That's
sure
for
you can
sure.
attest to that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for sure. It's very scary to take that first step,
Hmm.
but all of a sudden you realize everyone else is scared too.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so then you can actually realize that you're there to help each other, and that rocks my world.
I know. I mean, this is all about, yes, helping each other. This is the time to really amplify that and kick that up in our world. We all need to be here for each other because we can't get through this life alone. We always
No,
need others to help us on our journey. And you're doing that. I hope that I'm doing it as well. We're all helping each other on our journey. So thank you so much for everything that you do, Cathy. You are really impacting a lot of people. You've impacted me personally. I thank you for everything that you've taught me and all the people you've introduced me to. And thank you so much for being here. Is there any last words of wisdom you'd like to share?
I am just thrilled that, like I said, to be here. Yes. And how we met, all those things, the networking piece is huge. So when people say networking doesn't work, guess what, my friends? I get to know Teresa Lisum. So yes, it
Yes,
does.
yes, it does work. Amen. We know it for a fact. So thank you so much, Cathy. So appreciate you. Thank you to everybody who's watching. Go check out Cathy, connect with her, and subscribe to her YouTube channel and my YouTube channel. And we will see you on the next episode. Bye bye.